Nancy, you are shopping for fabric again, aren't you?
It's something I can't stop doing.
I don't blame you.
I wanted to show you today how I choose fabrics for a quilt. So this is a method that I've been teaching for a long time to help beginners. You know, it's funny, when I ask people their favorite part of quilting, everybody has their favorite technique, their favorite stage of the quilt making process, but it's rare that you find somebody who says, my favorite part is picking fabric.
When you think that would be the most fun.
And stuff. I believe it to be the most fun, but a lot of people are afraid of it. So I've come up with this technique for people that are afraid of how to pick their fabrics.
Okay.
The idea is I find a fabric that's going to have 3 or more colors. So here we've got a fabric, beautiful leafy fall fabric. It's going to have green, orange, red, a cream, some gold in it. There's 4 or 5 colors right there. Okay. So then when I'm in the shop, I'm going to start picking fabrics that have those colors in it. I'm not trying to be too matchy-matchy. I'm not going, I need that specific green. I think this green is fabulous with this quilt. So one of the techniques, when you buy a pattern, let's say that you buy a pattern and it's going to be a red, white, and blue pattern quilt. The fabric instructions tell you to buy 2 yards of a cream, 2 yards of a blue, and 2 yards of a red. Instead of buying just 3 fabrics in 2-yard chunks, instead, I would buy 4 half-yard sections of a cream, 4 half-yard sections of a blues, and 4 half-yard sections of reds. So what that's going to give you is more depth and interest in your quilt. Also, it's going to make it so that you can't make a mistake. And what I mean by that is when you're cutting into your red fabric and you've made a 2.5-inch strip instead of a 3-inch strip, you're not going to run short of fabric because you can always go back to the shop and get another half-yard section of a different red. So now we have 5 reds instead of just 4, but that's going to give you more interest in the quilt. Does that make sense?
It does, because
Okay.
they're all going to read
Yes.
like red or
Yep.
read as blue. So even though you have 4 or 5 different tones, the design is still going to show up beautifully because you're combining multiple shades of a particular tone.
Yes, and you're never going to run out of fabric.
That sounds great.
Yeah, so here I am all set. I'd take a half yard of each one of those, and this border print, I'd get 3 yards. You all set?
Absolutely,
All
let's
right.
go.
So in that segment, I showed you how I teach my students to actually pick out the fabrics for their quilt. Thought you'd like to see some of their quilts and some of my quilts using that technique. On this quilt, this border print was my inspiration. There's so much color in it. I picked out the greens and the blues and the black and the golds and made the quilt. Now on this, using that black to settle the eye, to give your eye a place to rest, made that busy print and all the colors really work well in this quilt. This quilt is from my friend Gina. When she did this quilt, she first picked out this really cool bird fabric, and from that, we went to the border print. The border print had all the colors that she needed, so it's really a very neutral colored quilt, but you can see how using the colors in the fabrics helped her get the design all together. This is a quilt made by my friend Tracy, and I think this is probably the best example of using a border fabric to pick out the colors of your quilt, and it worked out beautifully. This is the fabric that she chose first. Of course, it's got purples and pinks and greens, but that blue fabric, that was the fabric that really makes this quilt sing. She used it in lots of little places all throughout the quilt. It makes your eye travel the entire quilt, and it just looks fabulous. On this quilt that my friend Lynn made, she used this fabric for her focus fabric. She used that little bright orange that you see there to be the accent in her quilt. And you can see how it goes all the way across the quilt and really helps that quilt sing. Thanks for watching our video. Be sure you subscribe to our channel. We wouldn't want you to miss a single one. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you.